Good afternoon, folks, and thanks for joining us. Welcome to the MMA Sucka Podcast. My name is Tim Wheaton, joined as always, the gin to my tonic, the editor at MMA Sucka, Frazer Krohn. How are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, good, mate. Thank you. We were just talking before the pod about how much we've got to break down this week and then looking ahead to next week as well. So it's going to be a busy episode.
Yeah, it was a full weekend this week, and then it's a full weekend coming up next week. We got some big fights to cap off the year, and we'll just do a quick rundown on some of these really fun weekend ones. Bellator announces a Atomweight Grand Prix. It is absolutely insane. We've talked about how good the Atomweight division is for a while, but even outside the UFC, if you include one championship and Bellator, bantamweight is absolutely amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'm surprised that they decided to do the bantamweight after, they've so recently done. They obviously always like to have a tournament sort of on the go. We haven't even finished the light heavyweight tournament yet, and they've already announced the bantamweight. But like you say, there's plenty of options in the bantamweight division in Bellator. You've got James Gallagher and Patchy Mix in there that have just fought 2 or 3 weeks ago, that could potentially be facing off against each other again. You got Horiguchi and Pettis, who obviously, I'm sure we'll go into it in a little bit more detail in a second, but they, Friday night they squared off. So I think it's going to be tough for Pettis to keep his belt. Not, nothing against him, but there's just so much, there's so many good players in that bantamweight division in Bellator that, it's going to be hard. It's like Nemkov. It was hard for Nemkov to potentially keep his belt. And obviously we know that he's in the final now against Corey Anderson. But going into that, yes, he was the favourite because he was the champion going in. But there's so many other top players in each division that is, the odds are stacked against the champion and to keep his belt, because, the belt is on the line in every fight that he has.
Yeah, it's a really fun tournament. I'm really looking forward to it as well, like you said. And the thing is, unlike the light heavyweight division was a really good one as well, because like you said, Nemkov was the champion, but he wasn't necessarily a clear favorite. I think here the champion definitely isn't the clear favorite, right? Like it's still, even after that upset knockout where I think Bellator probably got the biggest headline of their entire year, Kyoji Horiguchi still has to be the favorite here, but then you still got trash talkers like James Gallagher. You have amazing fighters like Juan Archuleta, Magomedov, Patchy Mix. Like there's such a good, talented tournament here, isn't it? But off the heels of what happened this weekend, an upset victory after getting beaten up for several rounds, Kyoji Horiguchi gets knocked out by Sergio Pettis. Absolutely unreal. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people online, on Twitter, and maybe just kind of caliber of person you have on Twitter, but saying it was a fluke and yeah. saying, it was a fluke this and you didn't mean it that. And I can kind of understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, we've seen now the video of him drilling that after the fact. And, at the end of the day, if you drill a move like that, it's like Masvidal's knee against Ben Askren. He drilled that before the fight, and he landed it in the fight. It's like McGregor's sort of step back left sort of hook straight or left hand against Aldo. We saw him drilling that, and he landed it in the fight. We saw Pettis try that move where he goes for I can't remember off the top of my head whether it's a spin kick or just a kick. He spins around and then manages to land the spinning back fist. And we saw Jimmy Crute throw a similar thing in the UFC on Saturday night, where he throws a kick, misses, but sort of tries to ward off his opponent with the spinning back fist. And Pettis, there was a slight element of luck that Horiguchi was there with his hands down and that it landed, but by no means is it a fluke. I think, it's a drilled shot that I don't think you go into a fight thinking that I'm going to try and land that, because you go into a fight thinking I'm going to try and land the head kick. But this is what we always talk about, is plan A, land the head kick, plan B, the spinning back fist, And like you say, he was being beaten up for the first couple of rounds, two or three rounds. But when you've got if that lands on anyone in that tournament, they're going out. Let's be honest. And now, Pettis has shown that he can beat Juan Archuleta, he can beat Horiguchi. The rematch rarely goes the same way as the first match. So if they do meet in the final or earlier than that, I'd expect a very different fight, because now Pettis, it's no secret. Pettis knows that he was losing that fight and that he landed that shot. Yes, it was drilled, but he knows that if the fight would have carried on going how it was going, he was losing his belt. and he was entering the tournament not as a champion, and therefore, I know we don't like to talk about money a lot, but he's now entering at least one fight as champion, potentially 2 fights, potentially 3 fights, and that's a lot. It's a lot more money entering a fight as a champion than it is entering as either a challenger or just another member of the tournament. So I think Pettis is, in some respects, is quite lucky. But I mean, for me, that's Bellator's. Other than maybe the sort of flying running knee a couple of weeks ago, I think that's the biggest knockout of the year. They've got their 5-second clip that they can just play over and over again in the bantamweight tournament now, and I think they're lucky to have Pettis do that, because if Horiguchi would have just ground out a 5-round decision, it would have not been boring, but there's no 5-second clips. It's the social media generation are not going to be that interested. But now I can't tell you the amount of times that I've seen that clip just on random Instagram posts and Twitter posts, and I think Bellator are quite lucky that Pettis was able to do that.
Yeah, it's you got to think back of it was the top post on Reddit for a time. And like the only other times that happened was like Jorge Masvidal and Ronda Rousey getting knocked out. Like this was a big one for Bellator, I think. We also had this weekend the women's Atomweight Grand Prix. Actually, going back to what you're saying, you are right. That like as soon as you have gold attached to your name, regardless of what organization it is, that's how people introduce you every time in the future. If you have gold to your name, no matter who you're negotiating with in the future, you can always say, "I was a champion here. I was a champion there." That makes a huge difference to one's career. His future is much better now. I mean, of course, because of the knockout, but he's got the gold. He's entering the tournament as a champion. And the future is bright for Sergio Pettis. He is also getting better over time. He's gotten better since he's left the UFC. He was always a really young guy, but it is potential. There is potential in him in that he might surpass his brother, Anthony.
Yeah, there's definitely that possibility. But what I would say is, he's always going to struggle against Horiguchi. I think if he does come up against Horiguchi later, I think he probably beats anyone else in that tournament. James Gallagher or Patchy Mix. Patchy Mix's stand-up was awful against James Gallagher. James Gallagher's stand-up is nowhere near the level of Sergio Pettis. Yeah. If both of these guys can get it to the ground, Patchy Mix is a long guy and he can get it to the ground if that's what he wants to do. But, that's what he's going to... is what he's going to want to do against Pettis if he comes up against him, because with the greatest respect, he's got no chance on the feet. And then Magomedov he's just well rounded. He's the kind of person you don't want to come up against, because how do you? Yes, he's like how do you approach that? It's difficult for anyone to come up against Magomedov, because like I say, he's so well rounded. So it is difficult for Pettis. I think I do agree with you, because I think Anthony Pettis, obviously the older brother, his legacy was slightly tarnished with the losses that he took later on in his UFC career, and maybe the manner of some of those losses. He sort of pulled out of fights arguably slightly prematurely, with broken hands and whatnot. And in the PFL, he hasn't done too well. But with Sergio Pettis, I think it's, he's still got a future ahead of him, despite the fact he's a champion now with one solid defense. So I think he's got a big, I agree with you. I think he's got a big future, and despite the fact that he's already champion, that's a big thing for him to sort of big feather in his cap, as it were.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the future is bright for him, and we'll see what happens in this tournament. But this is the thing. This is why tournaments are fun. They create really fun headlines that pair people up, especially in stacked divisions. And bantamweight all around the world is extremely good. And speaking of tournaments, we also had the conclusion to the One Championships Women's Atomweight Grand Prix, something I wrote about very early on back in February and I've been very excited about. My pick from the beginning was Ritu Phagat, who was, there's a movie about her family, about the wrestling family. She's a Commonwealth gold medalist. She was my pick, and then she went and lost to B. So, okay, this is stupid. And then she came in the tournament and started just wrestling everybody. She'd be like Mang Bo and all this stuff. But Stamp Fairtex, the golden girl of One Championship, 24 years old. She's held titles in kickboxing, Muay Thai, and then she wins this fight via armbar. The absolute, it wasn't that a matter of Stamp Fairtex winning. It was that she did it via armbar. Stamp Fairtex at 24 years old, Absolutely unreal. She's a one championship tournament atomweight champion. Like I don't know what to say. Like this girl is absolutely insane. She fights Angela Lee next, who is the reigning champion in that division. But yeah, this is a killer division. I'm so glad that they did a Grand Prix, because the women's atomweight division is stacked right now. There's so many fun top contenders. Even the subs for this tournament could get a title shot next. Even the girls who lost in this tournament could get a title shot next. It's a fun one. What do you think of the fight?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think if you put money on Fairtex to win by submission, regardless of the round, obviously it was in the second round, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think regardless of what round you put it on, if you put it on for her to win by submission, you're laughing all the way to the bank at the moment. But yeah, like you say, I wouldn't be surprised to see Fogar get a title shot, or get a fight against the winner of Fairtex versus Angela Lee. Because it's like we always say, styles make fights, and I agree with you that everyone in that tournament had a chance to win that tournament, if that makes sense. It was, every match was well matched up, and I think one championship at the moment is slowly but surely, it's rising. I think PFL maybe overtook them last year a little bit with their tournament, just because they've got the bigger names as far this side of sort of Asia. Anyway, you've got the Kayla Harrisons, you sign Anthony Pettis, you sign Fabrizio Verdun, the big names. Clarissa Shields is obviously over there. Mm-hmm. But one championship creates stars. But the only bad thing, or not bad thing, or the only negative about one championship, I feel, is if fighters want to leave one championship in favor of the UFC, there's the lack of the atomweight division. We've seen Michelle Waterson struggle. Let's be honest, she's an atomweight fighter, mm-hmm. and she's fighting at strawweight, and she's still undersized even at 115.
Yep.
So, are we going to see really the best of the best ever fight in the UFC as far as atomweights are concerned? Not for a good few years at least. But the atomweight division in one championship is the best of the best. Let's be honest. The only other atomweight division I can think of off the top of my head is Invicta. Mm. But pretty much all the Invicta girls, if they do well, they'll just have to put on 10 pounds and move up to strawweight to compete in the UFC, which is a shame for them. But it is what it is. Maybe the UFC shouldn't be the end goal for everyone.
Yeah,
maybe a little trip over to one championship might be better for them.
In all honesty, yeah. So one does have some of the best talents in, like, their kickboxing divisions for the lower weight class divisions aren't the best in the world. Their atomweight division is undoubtedly the best in the world. You could argue that for men, their flyweight and bantamweight, arguably, like, all those guys would be top 3 in the UFC kind of thing. Like, those are arguable points, but their atomweight division is the best in the world. And this is the thing: if the UFC wanted to open an atomweight division, they could sign a couple of girls from Ryzen, a couple of girls from One Championship, and a few girls from Invicta. Already, that division is better than women's featherweight.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's probably as competitive with women's flyweight as well. Let's be honest. Yeah. Valentina is women's flyweight.
Yeah.
And then you've got a huge drop off, and then you've got your Caitlin Chikagians and your Jennifer Myers and your Lauren Murphys. At the end of the day, that division is not competitive at the moment. The bantamweight division isn't competitive. Strawweight's relatively competitive, but you've got Rose Namajunas that's beaten pretty much the top 2 or 3 contenders. The only real question with Rose Namajunas is Carla Esparza, and whether she can beat Carla Esparza after losing to her. And the featherweight division is non-existent. We've just this week we saw Felicia Spencer retire.
Yeah.
So she was one of maybe 4 fighters in the featherweight division. Aspen Ladd moved up to featherweight and lost. Norma Dumont to featherweight, but she, I'm a big fan of Norma Dumont. I think she's really good, but I don't think she beats. I mean, I know that she doesn't beat Amanda Nunes. Megan Anderson obviously left the UFC, so it's like, the atomweight division could be so much more competitive than the featherweight division, or the flyweight division is not competitive at the moment. The fact that every time Valentina fights, we're always saying, right, next there's got to be Amanda Nunes, or someone's really got to, she's got to take a year off just for some new sort of contenders to come to light. And, like you say, in atomweight division, you could sort of cherry pick 2 or 3 people from a number of different promotions, and then fill it with fighters from Invicta as well. Let's be honest. You've still got your Michelle Watersons in there that with a little bit of discipline could make atomweight again. And I'm sure there's more fighters at strawweight that could probably make atomweight if they really sort of, got their sort of diet in check. They're too small for flyweight, but are a good strawweight size, but could probably make atomweight as one of the bigger girls in that division. And, I think it's a real big missed opportunity for the UFC at the moment, because like you say, even with this one championship tournament, it was so competitive.
Yeah.
Why not have more? We only had, I think we had, was it 2 women? Yeah, no, one women's fight or 2 women's fights on the UFC card this weekend.
Something like that, yeah.
Had the fight of the night between Cheyenne Villismus and Mallory Martin. I thought that was an excellent fight. I think that was the only women's fight on the card. Let's be honest. Why is that the only women's fight on the card? If you have a whole new division of an atomweight division, you then open up whole new opportunities for people, and you got the opportunity to put women, flutter them throughout the card. It shouldn't be sort of obviously, the more male divisions are always going to dominate the cards, but having 2 women's fights on a card is not exactly a bad thing, I don't think.
I completely agree with you. I think one atomweight has been a missed opportunity for the UFC for quite some time. And like you said, it's a much stronger division than flyweight and especially featherweight. And to give some context to what you're saying on that, one of the subs for the tournament was Jenilyn Olsen. She almost beat Ritu Fagat. So if you sign some girl who's barely in the top 10, she's still competitive against the people who are the top 3 in this division. Hamderlei Silva struggled to get past Denise Zamboanga. So if you sign Denise Zamboanga, who's at the bottom of the top 10, she is almost beating the number 1 person in that division. This is a competitive, tight division here. It's a lot of fun to watch. If you guys aren't watching the ones when women atomweight, I want you guys to know I am an MMA snob. So you got to watch women's atomweight. But yeah, it's great stuff. We got to move forward because we're going to be here all day. This weekend, we also saw UFC on Vegas 44. Jose Aldo defeats Rob Font. Here's the crazy thing. You and I both picked out game plans for each person. I said, Jose Aldo needs to do this. You said Rob Font needs to do this. Jose Aldo didn't do my game plan and still won. Rob Font followed the game plan and still lost. It was like, so he's doing all the right things. He's throwing lots of punches. He's using a strong jab. He outlanded in terms of numbers against Jose Aldo, but it just isn't enough. If you aren't literally like a top 3 guy, you're not going to beat Aldo. You need to be a generational talent to beat this guy. Even having a good fight against him, you're still going to lose. Jose Aldo outstruck a guy whose boxing is top quality in Rob Font. Absolutely insane win. And it's great to see Aldo. We're going to get to greats in a minute here, but it's great to see Aldo getting the respect that he deserves. Really fun weekend, a really great event. What did you see in the Aldo Font fight?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. We sort of gave rough game plans of how we thought the fight might go, or the sort of keys to victory almost for each man. And Rob Font started off in that first round, the amount of punches that he was throwing in the first round, I was thinking he's got to have a decent gas tank, because he was throwing and landing often. The jab was constantly out there. He was peppering Aldo with shots, and Aldo was, we see Aldo, rather than sort of slip out of the way of shots, he sort of just bends from the hips, bends backwards and comes back with the counter. And he wasn't quite able to get his range in the first round until the last kind of 15, 20 seconds, where he actually caught Rob Font and dropped him. And, I think it was I can't remember if it was the second or third round, Aldo just showed his experience. He kept it on the feet for the majority of the first 2 rounds, and then just landed a nice takedown as well on Rob Font. He's mixing it up. He's keeping Font guessing. Then from there on, Rob Font didn't know if Aldo was going to stand and trade, look to slip out of the way and land shots, or land the takedown. And I think that's his experience of, not only high level MMA fights, but just the number of high level MMA fights that he's been in. It's rare to see Aldo in a 3-round fight. So now that he's in this 5-round fight, sorry, yes, he goes the distance more often these days, and he isn't actually getting the knockouts at bantamweight, but he's got the experience over 5 rounds of how to dominate.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but he's also got the equalizer of he's clearly still got the power to hurt these bantamweights. You know, he landed regularly on Pedro Munoz when they fought last in Aldo's previous fight, and I think that deterred Pedro from getting. You know, we know that Pedro loves to scrap, but I think that kind of deterred him ever slightly from actually getting too involved in Aldo into the firefight. And likewise with Rob Font, you know, after that first round, you know, Rob Font's tough and he's not scared to sort of take one to land one. But when you're taking one off someone that's everyone was talking that needed to move up to 155, let alone drop 10 pounds to 135 from when he was the featherweight champion, it's going to deter you. You know, it's human nature. If you get hurt by something, you're not going to, you know, run in and do whatever it is again. And I think that showed on Saturday night. And it's like you say, it's nice to see Aldo now on I think it's a 3-fight win streak, isn't it now, for Jose Aldo? Mm-hmm. At the tender age of 35, and he's still cutting weight, he's still making weight with, you know, he looked good on the scales as well in comparison to what we've seen him previously at bantamweight. And, you know, like you say, if you look at the people that he's lost to, Conor McGregor, Max Holloway, Volkanovski, Petr Yan, and I'm not even going to put the Marlon Moraes loss in there because
it's the odd one out, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. But, you know, these are all champions, or with the exception of Marlon Moraes, these are all champions or top guys. And, you know, Moraes was lucky to get that decision over Aldo. But let's be honest, you've got to be elite championship quality to beat Jose Aldo. And if you're not, you know, I think, well, I definitely did. I'm not sure about you, but picked Rob Font going into it. I think you did. Just, you know, youth is on his side. He's got the jab that we know that Aldo struggles with, the straight shots down the pipe that Aldo also struggles with. And yet, it was pretty one-sided, the fight. You know, it was Rob Font was never really in it. And I thought he took the loss really well. I think he'll be back. You know, he's not old, Rob Font. He's 34, but he doesn't, as ridiculous as it sounds, he doesn't fight old. He's there with a lot of volume. So even if he drops his volume by a considerable amount, he's still a solid competitor. And I think there's still lots of fights out there for Rob Font, but the worry is now that he might become a little bit of a gatekeeper to the top 3, top 5. You know, Cody Garbrandt couldn't get past him, but Jose Aldo did with relative ease. And obviously, you know, we know that Rob Font holds a win over Sergio Pettis back in, I can't remember, it was a good few years ago now, 2019, 2018 maybe. So, you know, he's clearly got the talent there. But the worry is now for Rob Font, I'd argue that he may become a little bit of a gatekeeper to the top 3, top 4.
And his striking is good. He just needs to sharpen in a couple of different ways, a little bit more diversity in his hands. Because overall, just with like his jab and 1-2 in boxing, he's very good. But to beat Aldo, you need to be a little bit better. And Marlon Moraes may not have been a champion, but he nearly beat Henry Cejudo, to give context for how good he was during that era. He's on a string of losses now, but during that time, Moraes was unreal with how good he is. And this is something, the reason I'm so happy to see Aldo getting so much respect now is because the way we talk about greats in MMA is so relative to what's going on now. And if you are not literally holding a championship, and if you're not literally undefeated, you're out of the discussion. The way that we talk about greats quite often with guys like, there's so many forgotten greats. And I want to throw you like Dan Henderson's and Mark Coleman's and Frank Shamrock's, and even guys like Anderson Silva. As soon as he lost twice to a champion, he was out. He was a bum. He's not the great anymore, right? The way that we talk about greatest of all time is so relative to staying undefeated. So for a guy like Aldo to have a couple losses here and there, he deserves to be considered that S-tier great. He is alongside guys like Demetrius Johnson and Anderson Silva and Fedor Emelianenko. He is in that division. So I'm really happy to see, because usually fans write off guys with a couple of losses a little bit too easily and a little bit too quickly. I think, at least. What do you think? Yeah,
for sure. And, you know, it's a quote from Dominic Cruz. Can't remember when it was, but I've seen it a lot lately, of, you know, if you retire undefeated, can you really say that you fully pushed yourself every step of the way? And let's be honest, you know, there were still fights out there for Khabib. He hadn't completely cleared out the division. Charles Oliveira is a question for Khabib. You know, if Khabib takes him down, do you want to be on the ground with Charles Oliveira? Probably not, you know. Michael Chandler, now that obviously he's entered the division, and yes, he's got picked up 2 losses, but Khabib's not going to fight Chandler like Oliveira or Justin Gaethje did. So did Khabib truly push himself to his absolute maximum? It's questionable, but with Jose Aldo, you cannot deny that he pushed himself to the maximum. You know, he obviously took the fight against Conor McGregor, lost that. He bounced back against Frankie Edgar. Then he had the 2 fights with Max Holloway. Then he had a couple of bounce back fights, but then he fought Volkanovski, who would go on to be champion. Then he drops down 10 pounds and goes straight in there with Marlon Moraes, who at the time I think was coming off. He was coming off the title fight loss to Henry Cejudo.
Yeah.
Which, like you say, which he it was a few more leg kicks away from actually winning that one, you know.
Yeah.
And then he goes in there with Petty Yan for the vacant bantamweight strap. And then he goes in there with Marlon Vera. And then he goes in there with Pedro Munoz. And then he goes in with the rising Rob Font. I could not tell you the last easy fight that he got, you know. And, you know, did I write him off going into it? Maybe, you know, but I'm happy to hold my hands up and say it was a phenomenal performance from Aldo. And I think, you know, going forward, it's going to be hard to. I know he called out TJ Dillashaw. It's going to be hard to sort of pick against him going forward because he looked good against Rob Font. It's the best he's looked at bantamweight, in my opinion. And you know, at 35, he's got that experience, and he's looking good as well. It's crazy to say that the future's looking bright for Jose Aldo after the career that he's had, but it is, you know.
Won his first championship in 2008. Never been outside of title contention since that time. Been fighting nothing but top 5 for his entire career. Like we talked about the Conor McGregor loss, but by that point, he had 9 title defenses by the time he lost to Conor McGregor. Like this guy's career is unreal. And even other guys who have longevity in MMA, you don't see that kind of competitiveness. The Damian Maias, the Donald Cerrone's, the Clay Guidas. Yes, long careers in the UFC, outside the top 15, well outside the top 10. Aldo is constantly entitled. Even now, we're talking about maybe this guy's 1 win away from a title. Absolutely insane stuff. I want to move on because there's so much to cover today. Rafael Fiziez and Brad Riddell have a really tight, close kickboxing match. Spinning back heel kick for Rafael Fiziez gets the KO late in round 3. Really impressive work here. It was a fun, tight match where both guys. You can see Fiziez. He is the better kickboxer overall because he does. Even if not all the strikes were landing, he was narrowly winning exchanges. But the more important part is that his cage cutting and footwork is superior. So he's entering the top 10, and arguably he has learned the stuff that's a little bit hard to learn for a lot of guys in his position, which is cage cutting and footwork. But also he packs a ton of power. He also showed maturity in this fight with not trash talking too much, not getting ahead of himself in round 3. He just stayed focused. He paced himself and did a great job here. I'm very impressed. The guy probably enters the top 10 now. What did you think of the fight? What does the future hold for Rafael Fiziez?
Yeah, like, you know, I
think it's Rafael. It's Rafael. He's from Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's not Rafael. Yeah. Sorry, this sport sometimes.
It's Rafael dos Anjos, but Rafael Fiziez. You know, you get your Rafaels and your Rafaels. Yeah, but no, I agree with everything you're saying. In the exchanges when they sort of almost butt heads, Fiziez was just about getting the better of the exchanges, and I think it didn't help Riddell that pretty savage cut over his left eyebrow was a rough one, but they managed to, you know, stop the bleeding quite well in between the second and third. I think Fiziez was probably going to go on to win that by decision anyway, maybe 30-27, but probably more likely 29-28 because, you know, he did take a little bit more time than Riddell getting into the fight. Maybe the first 2 or 3 minutes he was a little tentative. Obviously they are training partners, so they're going to have a bit more of a feeling out process. But I just want to comment on the stoppage from Herb Dean. We give him a lot of shit week on, week out for poor stoppages. I thought that was an excellent stoppage. You know, Riddell froze against, and he did some sort of movement with his hands that is not I've just been hurt, I'm going to cover up movement. His hands were sort of out, and he was, you know, and I thought really good stoppage from Herb Dean. You know, we like I say, we like to give him pelters when he doesn't do so well. So, you know, give him his props when he does get the stoppage right. But yeah, like you say, what's next for Fiziez, it's difficult because you know, the the lightweight division, like the bantamweight division, is stacked, and it always has been. You know, you look ahead. You know, Fiziev is he's 14th at the moment. Above him, Arman Sarukian, he's matched up. Diego Ferreira matched up. Greg Gillespie, he's not going to fight Conor McGregor. Dan Hooker looked like he's going down. Maybe a Tony Ferguson, but do you give Tony Ferguson that fight? And then you're looking at the Rafael dos Anjos, he's ranked number 6. Just let's assume that he maybe enters the top 10. He might not even enter the top 10. Does Rafael dos Anjos put himself in a position where he drops down that far down the rankings to take on the 11th or the 10th guy? I'm not so sure, but he's almost stuck between a rock and a hard place. I think he said, I'm ready to go in 3 months. Give me 3 months off and I'm ready to go. But I think if he's clever, he'll take a little bit more time off, maybe 6 to 8 months, and just watch how the division plays out, and then he can pick his, I want to fight Tony Ferguson coming, or I want to fight the loser of Makhachev versus Dariush to get me in the title picture, or I want to fight a Rafael dos Anjos or a Michael Chandler even, just to get him back into, to get him into that top 5. And then for one of these guys, the sort of upside to that would be to cement them in the top 5 or top 6. So he's, like I say, he's kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place at the moment. But there's no taking away from his performance this weekend. I thought it was really good. And, we haven't seen him too much in the wrestling realm. So I think, someone like a Michael Chandler or Makhachev could be tough for him further down the line. But because we haven't seen it, there's no saying that will be the case.
Yeah, I do agree with you. The wrestling is a big question. Chandler was the fight I picked out. However, I know that fight won't come to fruition. Chandler's in a bit of a different league promotionally. Jamal Hill, Clay Guida, Chris Curtis, Alex Morono. We also have Manel Cape all getting wins this weekend. Before we move on, what else did you want to break down from the UFC fight night?
No, I think you've pretty much covered it all. I was surprised, to be honest, with the greatest respect to Jamal Hill. I didn't know he had that kind of power to knock out Jimmy Crute so easily. Jimmy Crute looked off. He was rushing in. He didn't quite get his range. I think that shot behind the ear that dropped him early on really affected him. And he was never really able to recover from that by the looks of it. And looking ahead, what's next for Jamal Hill? I think he's slightly out of the sort of top 10 picture at the moment because he's not that big a name. He's not that big a trash talker even, and he loses to the majority of the top 10 fairly handily, I think. But I think he is young, so he's certainly got a future. And for Jimmy Crute, it's frustrating for him because now he's back-to-back losses after the injury to Anthony Smith, and now this knockout. It's technically two TKO losses.
Yeah, I
think he's got to take a little bit of time away and sharpen things up because he looked slightly off in this fight to me. We'll see what the future holds for both guys. Light heavyweight, you really want to, if you get a couple of good performances, you can start being a standout guy because it's such a thin division where just get 2 knockouts in a row and people start talking about you. So hopefully one of these guys can really start putting something together in the division and showing that they're talented. But let's move on to the big one. UFC 269 this weekend. Both of us want to break it down. We've been excited for months. Like, this is the one where as soon as it's announced, we're all chit-chatting about it and stuff. I think early on, we all picked Dustin Poirier. And then as we're watching tape and getting ready, we're starting to lean a little bit more and think, you know what, Charles Oliveira, forget about the early career, because same with Dustin, forget about his early career. Just in the last couple of years, since 2017, both these guys have put together quality wins, shown their toughness, shown huge improvements. But also when I was doing I was watching tape with the idea that I was going to prove why Dustin Poirier is going to win. So you're doing striking arithmetic of like, this guy does this and this guy shows a weakness. I ended up coming away a little bit more neutral than I expected. So I'm gonna read this out to you. It's gonna take about 2 minutes, and then we're gonna get to your video breakdown. You have some photos coming up, I know. With Oliveira at the 262 main event, we noted that he loves his lead left hook. He uses it frequently in all of his fights. He won all of his UFC, and he won his title fight against Michael Chandler using a lead left hook. Ideally, he's now fighting a southpaw, which he's rarely done in his career, the southpaw Dustin Poirier, who uses a lot of shoulder rolls. So a lead left hook shouldn't be available because a lead left hook should be blocked by the shoulder. However,
Dustin Poirier stands really squared on. And when I went back to watch him against a rangy fighter Dan Hooker, he landed a lead left hook 5 times in the first round. That was the best punch that Dan Hooker kept landing. But it wasn't a naked setup. He wasn't just throwing it. He needed to fake low and then throw the lead left hook. But he landed it 5 times. There is an actual opportunity that Charles Oliveira wins this fight via his signature lead left hook again. Oliveira has not fought many southpaws in his UFC career. He had a submission victory over David Tamer. In this match, his lead left hook was of no use, but did get an impressive knockdown with his cool up elbow strike. He also beat Nick Lentz when Nick Lentz was switching stances to the open side, and he was TKO'd by Oliveira off of a low kick. Due to the open stance in a southpaw versus orthodox fight, a low kick can often be dangerous technique. While throwing a low kick, a fighter will often have their head on the center line, which leaves it open for a rear hand punch. Oliveira did this against Nick Lentz. We also saw Poirier did this exact thing against Justin Gaethje. If you're throwing that kick across an orthodox to southpaw, your head's on the center line, and the rear hand straight is available. Both of these men have powerful rear hand straights, and both men love a leg kick. So we'll see how each man adjusts to this. The rear hand straight, Poirier's best strikes, rocked many great opponents with it. This is what he hit guys like Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje, like he hit Alvarez with it. Like all of his fights, he lands this punch in it. David Tamer was able to land this on Oliveira over and over again, but Poirier has had that punch land on him a bunch of times. So when the striking arithmetic came down to it, both of these guys have shown weaknesses to the other's strength. Both of them have shown defense to the other person's strength. On the ground, I think, honestly, Oliveira has a huge advantage. He has a really fast snap down. He has a really good, what's the word if he has a good, not clinch, but he has a good body lock. When guys go to the ground with him, they don't get up. So the reason that we don't even see him on the ground very much, and he holds the record for most submission wins in UFC history, he goes to the ground and he submits people. Like that's it. No one gets out from his submissions. Even Tony Ferguson was saved by the bell because Oliveira is that good on the ground. Quite often, Poirier will leave his head out and he leaves his neck exposed quite a bit during exchanges, and especially on the ground. Oliveira has a lot of opportunity in this fight, but he also rarely fought a southpaw and has never gone in the 4th and 5th round in his entire career. And fighting a guy as tough and gritty as Dustin Poirier, this is a chance for him to really prove himself, or he's just going to fade in the later rounds. And the more I analyze this fight, the more I absolutely love it. I'm so absolutely excited for this fight. What do you see in this fight, Frazer? What do you think? I know you got some photos ready for us.
Yeah, so first of all, I think it's the right fight to make, and I completely agree with everything that you've just said there. Dustin does leave his head out. It's something that I haven't really thought about until you sort of said then. But we've seen him on occasion, if Charles Oliveira can manage the octagon and either sting Dustin Poirier or hurt Dustin Poirier or get catch him tired, we've seen Poirier often just unload up against his opponent on the fence. But if Charles Oliveira manages to sort of switch the position with Dustin's head, we do see Dustin sort of duck low to throw these big looping left hooks. If he switched on, I think Dustin holds a power advantage because he's just a bigger guy. He's got the sheer power advantage, whereas I think Charles Oliveira's got the technique advantage over Dustin, the sort of technique power, as it were. Mm-hmm. But if Dustin drops his head, Charles Oliveira can, we've seen him snap a neck however many times, mm-hmm. But, he can leave himself open, Charles Oliveira, and that's what we saw against Michael Chandler, and that's kind of what I wanted to break down, what I think is going to be a big, I know for audio listeners, it's probably not going to be the best, but just bear with me for the sort of 5 minutes. So, let me just grab this up.
I'm going to switch to speed review as well, so you'll have... Oh, there we go. That works just fine. Yeah. That's perfect.
So, although Big Dan is slightly in the way, just prior to this, we saw Michael Chandler sort of throw the left, throw the right. If you see here, that right is way out of range, but look at the sort of stance that Michael Chandler's sort of giving here. He's right down, he stepped all the way in. Charles Oliveira, it's not squared up, his feet are far too close together. And then if we look here, we'll see where Michael Chandler's leg goes through. It's the distance covered by Michael Chandler in comparison to Charles Oliveira. And then if you look, so here you got the right leg goes all the way forward to the black line in the octagon, and the left hook, he throws the right and comes round with the left hook. And it's what actually leads to the knockdown of Charles Oliveira in that first round. But if you look at the distance as well, covered here, where Oliveira is here, inside in sort of both of his feet are pretty much inside the black line in comparison to Chandler, whose both feet are way outside of way inside of the black line. And now the distance covered now is Charles Oliveira has not stepped too far back. If you just compare that distance, you know, you can see the Modelo. It's quite a good sort of reference point. The red line here that I've drawn on here is not an awfully great distance, and is why Chandler's body shape there, he should never be catching anyone with that hook at this higher level of mixed martial arts. But because he sort of dummied the right overhand and come around with the left hook, he's landed on Charles Oliveira and ultimately dropped him.
Yep.
That body position has got, in theory, not an awful lot of power. Look, both his feet are pretty much not on the floor. He's not generating any power, but his body weight and his movement from right hook to swing forward with the left has landed on Charles Oliveira there. And if we compare that to Dustin Poirier when he fought Max Holloway, here, I'll just move this out of the way. Yeah, if we saw in the first round, and this is probably the most rocked we've seen Max Holloway in. I mean, I can't remember seeing Max Holloway rocked this badly in a fight for many years. Obviously, it's from slightly different because he's coming from the southpaw stance, but we know that his right hand is his power hand, Dustin Poirier, and he throws the left straight here. As you see quite clearly, it lands on Holloway, and then he comes over the top with the right hand. So he goes from the left, and if you look at the timestamp, you know, 307 to 306. This is straight after one after the other. And so he lands the left straight, comes right over the top with the right hand, and lands on Holloway. Wow. And you know, that is something that I think that Charles Oliveira, I think that's going to be the sort of almost blitz attack of left hook, right hand, right over the top. And you know, that left hook that left straight for Poirier is set to land. Then he comes through with the right hand and lands quite clearly. I mean, if we had the footage, it lands on Holloway and sends him quite literally running across the octagon, if anyone can remember back. But if you look at the sort of body position there, Poirier lands to left, but then the right that the camera angle's not great, to be honest, but the right that he lands on Holloway, both of his feet are planted on the ground. You know, you can see the torque from the left-hand side of his body is coming all the way over. You know, he's got all the sort of straight line from his hip all the way up to his sort of armpit area, and then straight through his arm. That's going to land with a lot more power than if we go back to the Chandler shot. Look, with the greatest respect to Chandler, yes, it rocked Charles Oliveira because I don't think he was quite expecting. You know, look at where his hands are. His hands aren't up by his temples or anything. Yeah. But that's not going to generate as much power as Poirier's. It's because, you know, both feet aren't really on the ground. His body position is sort of almost falling forward, so he's catching Oliveira with momentum. Whereas if we look at the Poirier one, that's technique that he's catching Holloway with there.
Planting his feet to carry through the punch, right? There's more power when you plant your feet, yes.
And also, you can kind of tell the distance here. Look, Chandler is at full extension here. That right hand was never really meant to land on Oliveira. That was a sort of almost a dummy right hand to set up the left hook. If you the distance, obviously we've got in the fight itself, Oliveira was shifting his weight all the way backwards. You know, he was going backwards. That right hand was never going to land. If it does land, it's going to land on forearms. If we compare that to Dustin Poirier, that left hand is thrown with the intention of landing, and it's a bonus that he's managing to land the right hand over the top. That, you know, look, he's right in range there of Holloway. And, you know, if we compare Holloway and Charles Oliveira, Holloway's range management in comparison to Oliveira's is far superior.
Yes.
So if Holloway is getting caught with that, I'd argue that Charles Oliveira is also going to get caught with that. And I think that's maybe going to be where this fight sort of, where Dustin Poirier can win this fight, of the sort of blitz attack of left straight, right hook, or even, you know, left straight, right hook. You know, just giving him different options. You know, providing Oliveira with the idea that he's going to come left and then right over the top, but then not coming with the right over the top. Just maybe, excuse me, going with a straight left for the first couple of rounds, and then managing to land the right hook over the top. Just, you know, gauging how far back Charles Oliveira is moving. Because if he is moving way out of range, that right hook's not going to be there, and he's going to leave himself exposed. But if he pumps the left straight out of there and sees that he's not shifting his way all the way back, Or if he tries to do, like we mentioned earlier, Jose Aldo, sort of lean from the hips out of the way of the left, that right hook's going to be there all day.
Yeah, Dustin Poirier specializes in the shift. That's his best strike, is carrying forward to really cover the distance. Some of the breakdowns have said that he does it to generate more power. That's one part of it, but it's because the octagon's so big that you do a shift because your opponents tend to move their feet, and a shift is a really good way to carry your fist forward. And that's what he landed on Max Holloway. That's what he's landed against the best fighters. That's what he get faking against Conor McGregor to set up other stuff, because Conor knew it. Like, he does it enough that Conor could see it coming, right? They were prepared for that shift. And that is the strike that a lot of guys do land on Oliveira. He got dropped by southpaw David Tamer. He got dropped by Michael Chandler when Michael Chandler was switching his stance and striking from the open side, which would be the side available during a southpaw. And you could see it in the photos that you were sharing there, that is on the open side. That is a really good point. And that if Oliveira doesn't tighten that hole in his game that we can see, it's a glaring hole that he gets dropped by this punch kind of almost in every fight. Every time that someone switches to a southpaw stance, he's getting hit by the same punch over and over again, a rear hand straight from the open side. He can get knocked out quite quickly. We've seen him get dropped in most of his fights. He gets dropped at some point. And Dustin Poirier packs a lot of power, and he has a lot of experience against great fighters, right? He's fought he's beaten like 6 champions just in the last couple of years. He's a really good fighter. His only notable loss is to Khabib. This fight, I think, is going to push both men a lot. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I think, if we can see it, although we are sort of the hardcore MMA fans, and, we analyze the sport, and we probably watch far more MMA than Charles Oliveira's team, we're I doubt that Charles Oliveira's team are tuning in for the prelims of a Bellator card, for example. But if we can see that, surely Charles Oliveira's team can see that. And in theory, they've got to have made that adjustment, or drilled into it. If you back out with your guard all the way up, or don't back out in straight lines. That's why he's getting caught a lot of the time, because he's backing out right on the straight line.
Yes.
Whereas, if he backs out ever so slightly to, so for Dustin Poirier, he throws the lead straight, the wrist straight, and then comes up with the lead hook. If you back out, sort of, Charles Oliveira circles to his right hand side, where that lead straight's come from, that right hook Poirier's going to have to come over his own body to land that hook, which is A, in a natural position to be punching completely across yourself, but B, it's going to take a lot of the power out of that, because both of you are going the same way, if that makes sense. If I'm trying to hit someone here, rather than hitting them head on, if I'm trying to hit someone here and they're moving away as well, the power is going to, deplete essentially. And we've seen Charles Oliveira throw up some crazy knees and whatnot, so I think that could possibly be a tactic in deterring Dustin Poirier from crashing forward. If he crashes forward and receives a big knee to the solar plexus, or a big knee to the stomach, or even, if Charles manages to get the knee up to the head, I think that could, deter Dustin from doing that too often, because, no one not really needing the face. But
that's a good one.
If he doesn't get deterred, why not throw that just constantly over and over again? And like we said about Rob Font and Jose Aldo, Rob Font, I think, was slightly deterred by engaging too much because he was hurt. Charles Oliveira manages to throw a big knee with Dustin Poirier crashing forward in the first round. Even Dustin's going to, maybe, think about whether he wants to do that again, and it'll maybe, he won't throw it with so much conviction, maybe leaving himself slightly open. I think it's a really, really intriguing. That specifically is what I'm looking for in the fight, but fight as a whole, I think it's really intriguing. It's the right fight to make, and then I think the matchmakers have nailed it in the past sort of couple of months. That every fight has been the right fight to make. Jan Blachowicz, Glover Teixeira. We've got this one. The co-main event in this is what it is. It's not, in my opinion, the right fight to make, because Juliana Peña's on a 1-fight winning streak. But when you're dominant as Amanda Nunes, what's the alternative?
I do completely co-sign with you. Yeah, you are absolutely right. I want to go back to what you're saying with circling away from power. Absolutely. You want to circle away around your opponent's kind of shoulder side, especially in an open stance, southpaw orthodox. You want to circle to your left so that their power is essentially, like you said, it's across them. You can't bring that punch across without looking like a dork. You're going to get punched all the time if you're trying to really bring yourself to do that. But what we've seen more often than not is Dustin Poirier's cage craft is a little bit better, especially in the bigger cage. He struggled against Dan Hooker in the smaller cage, but had absolutely no issue outstriking Max Holloway in the bigger cage. Quite often, Charles Oliveira does back himself up, and I think he does it defensively without setting up any counters. But so on the feet, like it is a little bit. We're doing like arithmetic here. The first round is going to look a lot different than the fifth round if they get that far. If they stay standing, I think it's a great fight for Poirier. If they go to the ground, I think that might be a short night for him, but it's a great fight. Now, one thing I want to throw at you, because we did mention Glover here, and then we're going to move on. I'll try to move on as quickly as possible. Regardless of who wins this fight, it's a good year. 2021 was a good year for the nice guys. We have Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, both nice guys. We had Alex Moreno, Glover Teixeira, Francis Ngannou. It's been a good year for these nice boys in a very violent sport, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it makes a change. We started the year off quite bitter with McGregor and Poirier started the year, with, it's quite nice between them, arms around each other. I'll give you some whiskey, you give me some hot sauce. And that's quite nice to see. Then their trilogy fight was awful. The stuff that was coming out was dreadful. And then now, like you say, we've got Brandon Moreno.
Brandon Moreno, that's what I meant. Sorry, not Alex.
Yeah, Brandon Moreno winning the flyweight bout, who is just, he's just a nice guy. And like you say, Glover Teixeira, nice guy. And now the winner of this, they're not going to trash talk. There's obviously needle between them because they both want to win, but it's not. It doesn't go too far. And, Rob Font and Jose Aldo this past weekend, we saw at the start of every round, glove touch. And, Fiziev and Brad Riddell, teammates, hugging at the beginning of the third round. Fiziev didn't hit Brad Riddell with any additional shots that he didn't need to. Mm-hmm. Jamala Hill showed Jimmy Crute some real big respect after their fight on Saturday night as well. So it's refreshing to see because, yes, it is a violent sport. And, Fiziev's knockout of Brad Riddell is one of the most violent aspects of the sport. And, yeah, you can pick him up, shake his hand, give him a hug afterwards. It's like you say, it's nice to see, to be honest.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is why we've talked about this. The base of this sport is martial arts, and the base of martial arts is based in honor and respect, because if you don't show honor and respect, the consequences can be dire. Like, you are hitting people in the skull here. You're hitting people at full power in the body and head. If you don't show honor and respect, it's just violence. But that's what makes it different. That's what makes it a sport, is showing people respect, saying good game after a match. Okay, we just got a few minutes left before we got to head out of here, and we still have some matches. Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena. Yeah, no, Nunes is collecting a paycheck for her family. Good for her. Do you want to add anything else to that?
I just looked into this. Yeah, exactly. I looked into this slightly. I said, it's the rescheduled bout. Obviously, I think Pena pulled out of the last one. Nunes has got the power. She's got the more activity. She's got the more experience. She's got the size over Pena. She's on a one-fight winning run, and that one fight, the fight prior to that, she lost by submission to Jermaine Durandamy, which, let's be honest, Jermaine Durandamy is not a submission artist at all. She's only competed 4 times since 2016, and although she prefers life on the ground, she's got a takedown defense of 23%. Juliana Pena.
Yeah.
And, Nunes, wherever she wants to, and she only lands 2.87 significant strikes per minute. If you think 2.87 significant strikes per minute is going to deter someone like Amanda Nunes, you're mistaken. If you takedown defense is 23% against Amanda Nunes and you want to keep it standing, you're not going to. I think this is going to be a quick, easy night for Amanda Nunes. And, did it take anything away from Nunes' legacy? Of course not. But with how easy she dealt with Megan Anderson earlier on in the year, for my, irrespective of how she beats Juliana Pena, she's not in my running for female fighter of the year, I'm afraid, because of just how, in theory she should be, because of how well she's competed against these girls and how well she's dominated. Everyone's a game opponent. But with that being said, Rose Namajunas has got 2 title defenses. both against Wiley Zhang, who pound for pound, Wiley Zhang is better than Megan Anderson and better than Juliana Pena. With the greatest respect to Pena, I don't see how or where she wins this one. You know, on the ground, she's got that sort of mauling style, but it's a size advantage and it's the activity as well. You know, at the end of the day, yes, I know she had a baby, Juliana Pena, so had to naturally take some time out, but you know, she fought once in 2019, once in 2020, and once in she fought in January of this year on I think it was the McGregor Poirier card. And, yeah,
she cut a promo though, and that's all you can really say, right?
Exactly. And you know, and she fought Sarah McCann, who has never been at the sort of top of the women's division. Yes, she got a title shot against Rousey, but from what I remember, that was when Ronda Rousey was running through everyone, and you needed to get one win to face Ronda Rousey because the division was still fairly new. And you know, Sarah McCann's not the kind of fighter that Juliana Pena is that Amanda Nunes is, in a word. And to be honest, I'm much more excited for, I don't want to say every fight on this card other than that, but
yeah, it was not the most interesting fight on this card. What do you think of Jeff Neal and Santiago Ponzinibbio? Both really promising upstarts and both struggled over the last 2 years. This is a high stakes matchup. See, this is what I mean. Already, this is a better fight.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't, because, you know, it was coming out that last week Jeff Neal was arrested.
Oh, yeah, that's right, too. Yeah, that's a weird thing.
I haven't heard that the fight's been cancelled or anything or rearranged or anything. So I'm assuming it's still going ahead. But yeah, like you say, Jeff Neal lost to Stephen Thompson, then lost to Neil Magny, and Santiago Ponzinibbio lost to Li Jingliang on his sort of comeback after a lot of time out. Mm-hmm. But then was able to, he had that sort of firefight with Miguel Baeza, if you remember, where each man just brutalized the legs of the other guy. I think Ponzinibbio, to be honest, will win this one, and Jeff Neal, it's not exactly the best fight prep for getting arrested. I can't lie.
No, yeah.
And you know, where's his head going to be at against someone like Ponzinibbio? I think Ponzinibbio probably gets it by decision. It's what I'll be picking, but because I don't really see where Jeff Neal wins this one unless he manages to catch Ponzinibbio early. Jeff Neal's got some good wins. You know, he beat Bilal Muhammad, and I believe he beat Mike Perry. It's his last win, but Santiago Ponzinibbio dominated Mike Perry when they fought.
I think you're absolutely right on that one. Yeah,
he's much smarter fighter than Mike Perry, so he's not going to be caught by Jeff Neal.
Yeah, I mean, that's not saying much. He's a smarter fighter than Mike Perry. So am I. So Kai Kara France versus Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt's moving down to flyweight, and I think this is a bad fight for him, honestly. Kai Kara France is a guy who focuses the jab. He opens the jab on every exchange that he has. He also cage cuts really well. He's been able to time some of his opponents. Let me get the name here for you. He did it against Bontarine. So Bontarine was doing the head duck in. He was timing it every time with a rear hand straight. This is like he made a game plan to beat Cody Garbrandt before he even fought Cody Garbrandt. And his first weight cut to flyweight, I honestly think Cody's going to learn that his flaws are not due to his weight. This is because of his fight style. What do you think of this matchup?
Yeah, I've written an article on sort of Cody's drop down to 125 and a little bit of a preview for this fight. And I think there's a lot of questions going into it. Will Cody's power transfer down to, because let's be honest, he does have power. There's no denying that he has the power to knock Kai Kara France out, but will it transfer down to 125? We know that Cody's chin is suspect. You know, how much will the extra 10 pounds off his weight and the more brutal of a weight cut affect his chin? You know, will Kai Kara France choose to stand and bang with Cody Garbrandt when he knows that Garbrandt has got the tendency to stay in there for a couple of shots too long and get caught, running the risk of being caught by Garbrandt's power down at 125? And I think, you know, how much will the weight cut take out of Garbrandt, and how much is the lingering effects of COVID still affecting him? Because I think that we saw against Rob Font when they fought, his cardio, yes, it's over 5 rounds as compared to 3 in this one, but his cardio definitely took a hit as a result of contracting COVID. in the same year that you get COVID and pneumonia and whatnot, you then want to lose all this weight and cut an extra 10 pounds on top of that and be ready for fight shape. I think it's a poor choice by Cody Garbrandt and his management not to take the fight, but to go down to flyweight at this point. You know, it's less than a year ago that he's contracted COVID, and I just don't think the timing's right for Cody Garbrandt, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's too bad he showed some of the best footwork in the sport, some of the best striking in the sport for exactly one fight, and then for the rest of his career, he's shown for some reason that was just a one-off. Like he's never been able to emulate what he did against Dominic Cruz. Speaking of Dominic Cruz, he is a little bit weak to leg kicks, and he has good, strong wrestling. He's going to be fighting Pedro Munoz, who has good, strong leg kicks and pretty good wrestling. This is a style fight. I think Pedro can win this fight on leg kicks, or Dominic Cruz wins this fight on wrestling. It's a little bit of a tough pick because I don't know where Dominic Cruz is. Like, what is his shape in? It's been a decade since he was in his prime. And we see him fight once every 5 years. I have no idea what kind of shape this man is in. But I think Cruz, I always think of him in his prime. He can win this fight on wrestling. What do you think of this matchup?
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, he won the, I'm just looking here, defended the WC Bantamweight, won the inaugural UFC Bantamweight Championship, December 2010.
That's right. This is 10 years.
You know, it's quite literally, it's almost, what's the date today? Well, yeah, so it'll be 11 years to the day almost.
Yeah.
You know, he won it on the December the 16th. So it'll be 11 years to the day since he won his first. That's when he's in his prime.
Yes.
And, you know, last time out, you won against Casey Kenny earlier this year.
Tough fight for him, too.
That was just, exactly. And that was just an experience thing, I think, over Casey Kenny, that he managed to almost sort of old man him. But, you know, I agree with what you say. He's got the wrestling to deal with Pedro Munoz. With that being said, we saw him susceptible to the leg kicks against TJ Dillashaw back in their fight.
Henry
we also
Cejudo,
saw it against Henry Cejudo. Yeah. So we know that he's susceptible to, and yes, he's got all this movement, but if you're trying to move like that on dead legs, it's not going to work. I think there's also a tactic that Piver's got to use against Sean O'Malley. You know, we've seen Sean O'Malley susceptible to the leg kick, and you know he's suffered with sort of leg injuries in the past, which we saw against Chisa. And what frustrates me so far about all the opponents since then, I mean, there's only been two. It's been Chris Moutinho on late notice and Thomas Almeida. Attack the legs of Sean O'Malley. He's there. He stands long. He's a big guy and he's got a lot of leg to hit. So why aren't people hitting his legs? You know, Andre Sukumtar hurt him to the leg. You know, Sean O'Malley hurt his legs in that fight, and Sukumtar decided to then clinch with O'Malley. What? I can't understand it. You know, it's a fairly straightforward fight for O'Malley, I think, against Piver, because Piver's there to be hit. We saw him last time out against Kyler Phillips. With one of the comebacks of the year. You know, he was badly hurt in that first round, and then Kyler Phillips gassed out.
That's true.
If you get badly hurt against Sean O'Malley's going to take you out.
Yep.
And, you know, I think it wasn't, in my opinion, it wasn't the fight to make at bantamweight, but, you know, the winner of this one, it's going to be hard for Sean O'Malley to not take on a much better opponent if he wins this one, because he can't keep on avoiding the sort of top level guys.
No, yeah, I mean, he's going to do his best, but like he said, he is playing the prize fighter a little bit of like, I get paid the same, who cares? You know, which exactly. Like respect to you, but as a viewer, I want to see you challenge yourself. You know, I want to see the best fight the best. That's why we're here. So we got the Sean O'Malley fight, we got the Dominic Cruz fight. What else do you see from UFC 269 that we want to quickly send off here?
I mean, I could speak all day on this card. You know, opening the card, we got, you know, Gillian Robertson, who I think is a massive prospect in flyweight, and I think she's still only about 20. Yeah, she's 26, and she's been in the UFC for a number of years now. You know, since 2017. Randy Costa's back. You got Ryan Hall back as well. Alex Perez is coming off. You know, it's his first fight since losing to Figueiredo last year for the belt. Miranda Maverick's back, stepping in on fairly short-ish notice against Erin Blanchfield. Andre Muniz, is coming off what is, as it stands, probably my submission of the year against Jacare earlier on in May. Jordan Wright, who's always just I don't know, I think he's awful. He's an awful fighter, but somehow he manages to get these big knockouts, and it's the same as Taito Avasa. Last time out, he got the huge knockout of who's the guy that Greg Hardy. Who's the guy that no one likes? Greg Hardy. Yep. He got the huge knockout of Greg Hardy versus Augusta Sakai, who's he's going to be a tough matchup, I think, for Taito Avasa, because Sakai's got the experience over him without a doubt. He's been in main events, and yes, he's coming off 2 finish losses against Overeem and Rosenstruik, but Taito Avasa's there to be hit, as is Sakai. So I think that's going to be a stand and bang heavyweight. If you want a free bet, under 3 rounds, it's not going the distance in that one. And then headlining the prelims, we've got the return of Josh Emmett, who, after pretty savagely being beaten by Jeremy Stevens, he's come back with a vengeance, and he dominated. He knocked out Michael Johnson, knocked out Mirsad Bektic, and then dominated Shane Burgos in a fight of the night. And he's the forgotten man at featherweight, really, because he's a big guy as well. He used to fight up at lightweight. He's, at the moment, I'd say he's probably one of the heaviest hitters in the featherweight division. But he is 36, and there's, how well does he sell? I'm not too sure, but how much of a future does he have in the UFC? I'm not too sure. But he's coming up against Dan Ige, who bounced back after that pretty dominant loss to Calvin Kattar.
That's going to be a banger. The Ige Emmett, that's a banger of a fight there.
Exactly. And, he bounced back. He did face Calvin Kattar. He bounced back with a KO victory, but then he went up against Korean Zombie last time out, which, again, I think when Dan Ige gets to the really elite level in the Qatars, the Zombies, and maybe now even Josh Emmett, he comes up slightly short, unfortunately for him, because I think he's really good, but he just hasn't kicked on from that top, that sort of 4 to 8 ranking that he's possessed for so long now.
It's going to be a good one. UFC 269 is a good. This feels like the finale to the year. I know there's one card after this one, but this really does feel like the deserved finale to the year, headlined with 2 people who really set the storylines for the year. It's going to be a good one. I'm glad that we broke it down. You had some great cards today showing some directional stuff. I absolutely hugely appreciate you doing that. We should do a lot more of that. Big thanks to Frazer, Krohn. Make sure to check out MMA Sucka. We'll put the links down below. My name's Tim Wheaton. You can check me out more Tim Wheaton MMA. We are back next week with a post show for UFC 269 and our year-end awards. So tune in for both of those. Frazer, you're going to have the last word here. Send them out of here. Where can we find more of you?
Yeah, so you can find me at Frazer Krohn writing on Instagram. We've got plenty out of on the site this week, plenty of previews. Like I said, I've got a Cody Garbrandt preview going up, probably it'll be tomorrow now, it will go up. And I've also got a Lomachenko versus Richard Comey preview. The boxing lightweight division is on fire. Sure, Devin Haney and Gervonta Davis both get wins this weekend. And arguably the best out of all of them, Lomachenko steps back in next week. So, it's exciting. And like you say, it's a big weekend. So I can't wait to break it all down with you next weekend.
Thank you so much for your time, Frazer. We will talk to you folks soon.
Cheers.